Fourth Way by P.D. Ouspensky. Chapter 13. Question. I noticed that people who have never thought often seem to find less difficulty with the work than others who have thought. Which is better? Answer. Both are no good. One who does not think and one who thinks too much. Question. Does the same thing apply to people who are considered brilliant in life? Answer. People who are considered brilliant may be very different. So it's difficult to speak about them all in one category. They may be really brilliant. They may be just pretending to be brilliant. Or other people may pretend that they are brilliant. But if you mean people who are very identified with their brilliance, then it may be very difficult for them, not only as a result of their brilliance, but as a result of their identification. Sometimes an advantage in life means a disadvantage in work. For the better man, 1, 2, or 3, one is the more willful one has to conquer. Let me read that sentence again. Sometimes an advantage in life means a disadvantage in work. For the better man, 1, 2, or 3, one is the more self-will and willfulness one has to conquer. The easiest and most advantageous from the point of view of the work is to be quite an ordinary man. Question. Is it not essential to become successful in life, or should one be unidentified with life activities, whatever the result? Answer. Both are necessary. Success is not dangerous in itself, if only one does not identify with it. The aim is not success or failure, but non-identification. Success may help in many things. Question. How big a part does intellect play in the system? Answer. Intellect plays a very important part because we begin with it. It is the only center which obeys itself. But development of intellect can only go up to a certain limit. Possibilities lie in the emotional center. Question. Have we anything to control our thoughts now? Answer. If you have interests in the right direction, those interests control all other things to a certain extent. If you are not interested, we have no control. If we are not interested, we have no control. Question. You said that in trying to think rightly about these things, you need to use the intellectual part of the intellectual center. Can you do that by trying to control attention when you think? Answer. No, it is a simultaneous action. You cannot divide it. The fact is that about certain things you can think only in the intellectual part. If you think rightly and formulate rightly what it is that you want to think about, then certainly you have to keep yourself on this idea without going into imagination. So the function itself determines the place. Question. I have come to the conclusion that I do not know how to think about what I want to think about. Is it because of buffers? Answer. I think it is simply that we are not accustomed to think about these ideas. We do not think of it as necessary to think about them. If we realize the necessity, then perhaps we will be able to do it. But buffers have nothing to do with it. Question. I think that the general experience is that early contact with the system brings more destruction than construction. Answer. From my point of view, the idea of construction and destruction is wrong. Nothing is destroyed, but if we imagine that we have something that we do not have, when we start working, we may see that what we thought we had something, but now we find we have not. This means that it is an illusion, and we have to sacrifice it. We can have real things or illusions. We lose nothing that we really possess. We only lose the idea that we possess something, which we do not possess. It often happens that people become disappointed in the work because from the very beginning they start choosing and taking things and not others, taking some things and not others. So after some time, they do not have the system, but they have their own selection from it, and this won't work. Other people want to understand only intellectually, and they do not want to make experiments with themselves and observe. But without practical work, it is impossible to move. Question: shall we be told when we can start practical work? Answer: you have been doing some practical work from the very first. If you had done only theoretical work, it would mean you have done nothing. The work is practical from the first. As I have said, the first condition is that we must forget what we want to get. People come to this from different sides. Some want to know. They realize there is certain knowledge and that maybe there are somewhere people who know, and they want to get that knowledge. Other people realize their weaknesses and understand that if they can get rid of these things, things will be different. So people come with different aims, and they must never forget the beginning. They can be reminded, but that will not help much if they themselves do not remember. Question: I wish I could strengthen my aim. I go on reacting in the same way as before and seem to be as mechanical. I suppose it's necessary to try harder? Answer: trying hard will not help by itself. It must be based on understanding. It is more a question of valuation, general valuation, valuation of the ideas. About almost everything, you can think in a new way, a better way than before. You can understand and connect together many things that you could not put together or understand before you came. Only, unfortunately, you want to keep all the old ways of thinking and have the new at the same time, and so there's no room for the new. Again, if you have some habits of negative emotion, you cannot remember yourself while you have them. So in order to remember yourself, in order to work, you must have a little free time. It is not so much that there is no aim as that you do not want to sacrifice anything. You cannot keep everything that you possess and have new things as well. Question: Is it lack of unity in man that makes it so difficult for us to find practical connection between the aim of the system and the aims of ordinary life? Answer: there are no aims in ordinary life. That is where you make a mistake. In ordinary life, one crosses another aim and destroys it or changes it in nature, so that, in the end, there are no aims. Question: you say that the man in the street has no aim, but when you get older, you do not fly about so much. You become interested in one thing. Answer: it is one-sided. There are many other sides of one's being and knowledge that this line does not touch at all. Some people can develop a certain oneness even in life, but these are exceptions. If, as you say, one becomes interested in one thing, only one group of eyes develops this interest. Others do not know about it. Only a small minority is concerned. So there are two questions here: the question of minority and majority, and the facts that if a line of interest appears, it does not touch many other things and occupies only a small part of one's being. The whole being never takes part in it. I think that what you said before this question of values in the work and in ordinary life must be understood better. In ordinary life, there are so many imaginary values that it is useful to clarify a little. In life, the best things have no meaning. People see what is small, but miss what is big. In the work, you have to do many things first in order to feel that you are waking up. The other things come. Everything comes, for this is the only beginning. Aim is necessary for the work, but it cannot be an arbitrary or invented aim. There can only be one aim, to awake. And it can only come when you realize that you are asleep. Otherwise, there is no necessity for it. All other aims, however, one may formulate them. One must be in line with that. Then, when one wants to awake, one begins to see obstacles. One sees what keeps one asleep. One finds a quantity of mechanical functions. Talk, lying, negative emotions, and so on. And one realizes that all life consists of mechanical functions that leave no time for awakening. One understands, then, the need to suppress them, or at least make them less strong. Then, one may have time for awakening. My problem is, do I really want to awake? Excuse me. Answer. What can I say? Suppose you come to a shop and you ask, do I want to buy something here or not? It is the same in this case. So how can I answer? You must understand that at first you get only unpleasant things. Maybe, and I say maybe, the possibility to get something pleasant depends on the capacity to accept something very unpleasant. Maybe this is the only chance. And if you agree to have something very unpleasant, you always get more than you bargained for. If you agree to half a pound of unpleasant things, you get 20 pounds. The great question is, what is the coin in which we have to pay? Effort is not really currency yet. Effort has to be exchanged for something else, and something else again, until you get something that can be currency. It's very complicated, but what frightened you? Question. Suffering is the word in my mind. I do not think it is in me to face unpleasant things. Answer. It is a matter of taste. What does unpleasant mean? It means paying. I quite agree that it is better to get things for nothing, but such a method has not yet been invented. Either one understands this and says, I will pay, only I must know how. Or one doubts and says, I had better either not pay or pay to myself. Then nothing happens. Question. At first I was anxious to work, and now I find there is too much to be done, and I feel it is hopeless. Answer. Although it seems much in description, it all comes to the same thing. It needs time. It is an organic process. Things have been going wrong for many years. It is necessary to give them time to turn around. Question. Sometimes I feel frightened that I do not know what I'm doing or what I want. I allow myself to get very negative. Answer. First, you must not allow. And second, when in a state of doubt, you must remember or try to remember and bring up other I's, which have certain valuation. This is the only way to conquer thoughts. Question. There are times when I feel a great revulsion for this work and a longing to escape, because there is something in me which I do not want to give up. How can I struggle with it? Answer. Either you have to escape or continue to hesitate until you become sure of one thing or another. You must not do anything while you hesitate. It's very important to remember that. Just as in the case of understanding, you must only choose things which you understand better and think about them. So in relation to doing, you must choose things about which you are sure and not spoil your life by things which you do not understand. If you think rightly, that is to say, if you collect and keep only the things that you understand and try to do things you understand, their number will increase. But if you fill your mind with things you do not understand, you will never move. This is a very definite part of the system method. Many things we know very well, but we continue to deceive ourselves, mainly about words. It's very difficult to understand the value of words. Poor in spirit are those who do not believe in words, and rich in spirit are those who believe in words. Often people say, if I do this and that, it will be beautiful. They do not understand that it is impossible to do exactly as they wish, that each thing will be a little bit different, and in the end, everything will be quite different. Then, when they see that it is different, they say, yes, but the original idea was good. It was not good. It only looked beautiful as an idea, but in realization, it often becomes its own opposite. It will necessarily change because of friction. There are some things that can pass through triads and others that cannot, and they cannot exist only in the form of one force, or half a force, or a quarter. Question. I believe that the understanding that we are seeking is attainable only by some. It is not probable that many of us may get to. Is it not probable that many of us will get to a blank wall of elimination and no further? Answer. Nothing can be guaranteed, but if one wants something and one tries to work and does not show some particular unpleasant feature, very difficult to deal with, one has a chance. That is all I can say. One has exactly the same chance as everybody else. One person may have very good and beautiful features, yet behind this have one small feature that makes work very difficult, more difficult perhaps than for somebody else who does not have such brilliant features. Question. Is conscience what would help most to know oneself? Is conscience what would help most to know oneself? Answer. Yes, it is a necessary element. One has to pass through it. It is the most unpleasant thing in the world, because in the ordinary state, we can hide things from ourselves. If we do not want to see something, we just shut our eyes and we don't see it. But in the state of conscience, our eyes will not shut. Question. How can one bring the ideas of the system into daily life? Answer. By studying yourself and studying the system. Everybody has personal questions and problems, but at present the system stands apart. Little by little you will learn to connect with it more and more things, and after some time, ideas of the system will enter into everything. Question. Is it then a waste of time to talk unnecessarily, to laugh and joke when one feels like it? Answer. There is nothing wrong in it by itself. What is wrong is what increases mechanicalness. Passing time in chatting and laughing is one of the most mechanical things. It depends on what you want. If you decide to have a rest, it may really be a rest. But if you cannot stop it, if it gets hold of you, then it is wrong.